Hey guys, it's Kane here. Welcome to my channel. In today's video, I am going to show you how to create Windows Form applications using Visual C#. Just before I start, I'd like to mention that with these videos, I was planning to limit each and every one of them with 10 to 15 minutes. But as I go through, I realize that's not going to happen since I have to explain a lot of stuff as I do them. So the videos will take a little bit longer than I expected. So apologize in advance. So without losing any more time, let's get started and let's see how we can create Visual C# interfaces, user interfaces, and how to make them alive with event-driven programming. So first thing I'm going to do is to go onto the file section and go onto the new and create a new project. From there onwards, make sure that C# is selected, and on the list you have to select Windows Form Applications .NET Framework. Down there, give your program a name. Don't leave this default name there. Just give it a meaningful name, and we can easily make sure that it will make sense with the program that we are trying to do. So I'm going to name my application as Windows Form App. So I'm just going to click on OK, and that will obviously create a new project, a new form for me. From there you will see a form being created. You can resize the form as you like, just using dragging from the edges. And one of the most important windows that you have to remember here is the properties. Many of the features that we're going to identify will be available on these properties. Now know that they can also be hard-coded, but it's probably better for you to go into here, into the properties, find the relevant section regarding the form component, and just change its properties. For example, the first property that I'm going to change is the title of the form. So I'm going to come into the text field. Most form components have a text field, and just going to change this as first form application. The next thing you should be aware of is what we call as a toolbox. A toolbox is a list of visual components which you can drag and drop into your forms. If you are not seeing the toolbox, make sure to go into the view and into the section. You'll see a toolbox in here, Ctrl-Alt-X, and if you are not seeing it, make sure that it's visible. From there onwards, you can see that these components can be categorized as common controls, which are the components that are often used, or you can see in categories, menus and toolbars, containers, and so forth. If you want to reach a full list of components, you can just expand all Windows forms. The ones that I'm going to use now are all under the common control section. Well, most of them anyway. So I'm just going to drag and drop first the button on the list. The button obviously is a component used on forms for interaction. You can drag and drop it, you can place it. Go to the properties, you can change what text goes inside the button. For now, I'm just gonna name this as Click Me. You can change many properties of the button, such as you can attach image, you can change its color using the for color, you can customize the color, you can take up as a color from the list, or just create a custom one yourself. You can change the font size using the font property. Going up there, you can select a font of your choice. I'm just going to use Verdana for this example, since every computer has the Verdana font. And I'm just going to put the bold and select 16. That will make the button quite big. The text goes inside will be quite big and visible. One of the most important properties that you should keep in mind is the name property of each and every component. This is probably the most important component that we need to change in every single form that we use for interaction. If you don't change the name of the component that you are using, you can have multiple numbers of those components inside your form, and then it's very easy to get lost which one does what. So make sure to name your components. I'm gonna name this one as button submit, since I'm gonna use it for a submission purpose. And in there, I'm just gonna double click on it after naming it. When you double click on a component, you trigger the click or one of the default actions for that specific component. You can see a list of actions that you can trigger for a specific component under this lightning symbol where it says events. Our programming style is going to change now. We're going to focus on event-driven programming, which runs on user interactions. So rather than from a top-to-down fashion, we're going to look into how user interacts with your user interface, and based on those interactions, something is going to happen. So in here, I'm just going to put the click me. And if you double click on it to your button, that will trigger the action of click, which will then create a custom function at the background that you can go inside and type something. So button submit click is a method for this specific button, and it is only triggered when you click on the button. You can see it from the action list. If you somehow want to reach to the properties of your form component, you can just come in here, reach to the properties. If you want to go back to the action list, you can go there and see the action list. These are all actions you can perform with that specific component. So we're going to come back in here, double click on the button. And in here, I'm going to type a MessageBox. A MessageBox is actually a class, and it has a static function called show, which allows you to create a message box at the center, and it shows a text inside, so it accepts a string value. Whatever the value that you type inside will be visible when you click on the button now. So I'm gonna say hello and save it. Now if I go in here into your form, you can build up solution, and if you press on F5, you can run it. Now when you run the solution, the click me part is not visible, so maybe I should really expand it a little bit like this. Yeah, very good. And when I click on the button, I will see the message hello being triggered now. So what you created is that you basically triggered the function called button submit click, and it shows hello. This doesn't obviously do much, but it shows you how interactions can be completed. From there onwards, we're going to change this interface a little bit further, and we are going to add more components into it. Since this application doesn't do much, I'm going to change now this button to submit, and I'm going to create more components in it. We'll probably have to reduce the font size as well, since this looks really big. Maybe make it 14. Yeah. Very good. Now I'm gonna go into the toolbox and drag and drop a text box. A text box is a field that you offer your user to fill in for specific data. The data that is going to be entered in here will be obviously string, but you can ask the user to enter any kind of data. So I'm gonna go into the Verdana again, go into the 14, maybe not make it bold, yeah, and we can leave it there. Now I put a text box, but I didn't tell the user what to enter there. So there is some field in here that you expect your user to fill, but they don't even know what to fill inside. So for that specific situations, we use another component called label. A label is used to inform your users regarding what they have to enter or show them specific information once interactions are done on your form. So their purpose is just to display information. You can drag and drop label, and just like the other components, you can change its features. Now for consistency reasons, I'm gonna name the font again, make it bold, and make it the same size as the others. It's also important to type text inside so that the user will know what to enter here. Just gonna name it as enter your name. Now that we type this, the user knows what to enter in here. The form makes sense now. There's one more thing that I want to add into this application. I'm just gonna copy and paste another button. Now when you click on a specific component, once you have created, you can actually copy and paste it. This will create a copy of your component with a default name given to it. So my original component was submit button, name as button submit. When I copied it, when I cloned it, it is named as button 1. Since I didn't have any button 1 in here, the compiler, the editor automatically added button 1 as the name. Remember, it's important to change the component's name because that is our way of tracking the name of the components on your form. If you leave it as button 1, we will never know, particularly if there are other buttons on your form, which one does what. So it's a very good practice to go and change this. And we're going to name it as button clear. The text also inside should make some sense, so I'm going to name this text as clear. Normally a clear button appears before the submit button, so I'm just going to put it next to it, just like that. So more or less my form is ready now. I can make it a little bit smaller just to make it more compact. So we have a button called clear, we have a button called submit, but we haven't changed the name of these things. We didn't change the name of the text box, which is going to provide some sort of interaction to us as well. So make sure that name also change. Now I'm going to change it to text name. Once you have done this, you can see now that the UI, the user interface of your application is ready. It is just cutting the edge, so I'm just going to move it, but more or less this is the interface that I'm going to use for this application. Yeah, it looks fine now. Currently, however, it just says hello and does nothing else. So we need to go inside these buttons and change some of the way that it works. So I'm going to erase this part, save it, go into the clear button, and there's a button submit and button clear. In order to receive some information from the form, it's important to create the variables that will store those values. So for this specific example, I'm going to create a string value called full name. This string value will be initialized to whatever value you get from the text box, and then you can then manipulate it according to what you want to do. It's important to track the values, so I'm just going to come in here and say when the button is clicked, the full name will be initialized to the text box name, which is the text box name for the component that I have on the form. So that's the name of it, and I will come in here and say I want to get the text inside. It is also a nice idea to not to treat it as an object and convert it to a string before you initialize it to a string value, so that the data type will make sense, since this can also be regarded as an object. Although the value inside will return you a string, remember that in Visual C#, a string can be an object. So once I have done this, I can pass this value into a message box and show something on the screen. I'm gonna show the value in here. Going in there, I'm just gonna put the text, hey, and then one way of adding it, just to put the plus sign, put the full name, and then a plus sign again, and you can put another thing. I'm just gonna say, I hope you are okay. Now that we type the message box, we can actually customize this. We can put a title to your message box, and I'm just gonna call it submit button click. You can put message box buttons, just put OK here, and finally a message box icon, just an information box. This will show basically an icon relevant to your whatever information you are providing to the user. Let me just take that one. Oops. And put this part, just attach it here. Yeah, so I can see it visibly. If it goes too much and bothers you and you can't see it, you can simply press on enter, take it down, since it makes no difference. Now that I have this, I can run the application. You can press on F5 on your keyboard just to run it. You can come in here, type my name, and press on submit. And it says, hey, this person, hope you're okay. Remember that the message box will only show at the center of your screen. You can close the application now and leave a blank space in here just to show it clearly. So whenever you show the message box now, you will realize that there is an information box next to it. Oops. Hey Kane, I hope you are okay. There's an information box. There is a title, and there's the OK button that we selected from the list. Now the clear button does nothing, so we're gonna come in here and initialize that one as well. To make sure that the clear button functions, we're gonna name the text name .text as empty, which will obviously make the text empty. And I'm just gonna, for the sake of the program, just gonna say full name is also empty. This is the variable that I'm typing, so making sure that it's just, you know, empty there. So let's run the application again. So I can now type the name again, once again, press on clear, which obviously clears the text, and I'm going to type the application and submit, which then says, hey Kane, I hope you're okay. It works perfectly fine. Now before I end this video, I want to show you how you can customize these things and how you can get and manipulate information. You're going to make some small changes in the program to make sure that it functions in a slightly different way. So instead of, for example, showing a message box that is a statement, we're going to ask a question. So I'm going to come in here and say, are you okay? So now my message box will be a question. Are you doing fine? Or just how are you? Put the comma there. Whoops, wrong place. Go up, put the comma. Yeah, and now we have to change the buttons into yes or no. Since this is now a question, are you okay? It is a question, so we can say yes or no. And we can change the icon in here as well. Make it a question. Now I'm going to save this and run it. And I'm just going to type my name once again. Press on submit. And now it says, there's a question mark, hey Kane, are you okay? Yes or no. It makes no difference now which one we click, but it will make sense in a minute. We'll just go up there to the message box and put this into an if statement. And initialize it to dialog result dot yes. And put some curly brackets. These are optional anyway. If you don't want to put them, that's okay. And we're gonna show another message box and say something like, glad that you are okay. So this message will be triggered when you actually click on the yes button. And you can simply put an else statement and just copy paste the message box and type something else there. Sorry to hear. Just a sad face. So let's see what this does. As I said before, these brackets are optional since you have only one line of code under your if statement, but you can leave them if you like to keep them. So it's rather than a style choice, so it's completely up to you if you want to delete them or not. So I'm just going to build the application once again and run it. Now I'm going to type my name, and it says, hey Kane, are you okay? And press on yes, and it says, glad that you're okay. And I'm gonna put the no option here, and it says, sorry to hear. So different choices now leads to different choices lead to different sort of outcome. So if I click on yes, it says glad that you are okay, and if I click on no, it says sorry to hear. So as you can see, you can use the information to manipulate it. You can interact with the user entries. You can show them. You can even make some sort of validation here, which probably we are going to cover that in the next video. So thanks for watching. In the next video, I am going to introduce arithmetics, how you can convert data from text to numbers, and we'll do some validations as well. So I'll see you guys in the next video.